Late at night, the 20th floor stands completely empty. A janitor mops the gleaming marble floor when he suddenly hears it. Clumsy, disconnected piano notes drifting from the music room. He walks quietly toward the sound. Inside, a blind girl sits at the grand piano, her small fingers searching aimlessly for the keys. He sits down at a second piano. "May I join you?" She smiles, tilting her head to listen. Two pairs of hands, one rough and worn, the other small and delicate, begin to play together. Behind the half-open door, a woman in a white suit stands frozen, tears streaming silently down her face. His name is Jack Rowan, 42 years old, a single father and a janitor at the Helios Group building. But Jack was not always a janitor. 10 years ago, he played the piano in a military orchestra. His wife would sit in the front row at every performance, and her smile was the only audience he ever needed. Then came the tragedy. A drunk driver one night that shattered everything. She did not survive. Jack stopped playing. The piano became a memory far too painful to touch. He took the first job he could find, a place where no questions were asked, where he could simply disappear into the rhythmic sweep of mopping floors and emptying trash cans. He raised his daughter entirely alone. Every single dollar went toward her future, and every sacrifice was well worth it. Yet tonight something draws him back. The girl at the piano cannot be more than 9 years old. Her eyes do not move, do not focus. She is completely blind. Even so, her fingers travel across the keys with quiet determination. She plays entirely by ear, with no sheet music and no teacher, guided only by pure instinct. Jack immediately recognizes the melody, Clair de Lune. But the notes are incomplete, broken off and disconnected like a puzzle missing its vital pieces. He watches her for a moment before quietly taking a seat. "You are close," he says softly. But music isn't just about hitting the right keys. It's about feeling the space between the notes. The girl turns her head toward the sound of his voice. "Who are you?" she asks. "Just someone who used to play," Jack replies. "What's your name?" "Lily." "A beautiful name. Do you come here often, Lily?" She nods. "My mom works here. She's always busy, so I wait and I play." Jack notices the silver bracelet shining on her wrist, engraved with the words, "Here with your heart." "That's a very special bracelet," he says. Lily touches it gently. "My dad gave it to me before he left." Jack asks no further questions. He understands loss all too well. He understands deep loneliness. "Would you like me to show you something?" he asks. Lily smiles, her face brightening. "Yes, please." Jack places his hands upon the keys and plays the very same melody. But this time it is complete. The notes flow like water, smooth, effortless, and utterly alive. Lily listens intently, her expression lighting up with wonder. "It sounds like the ocean," she whispers. "Exactly," Jack says. "Music isn't just sound. It's emotion, it's color, it's everything you feel but cannot see." "Can you teach me?" Lily asks. Jack hesitates, glancing down at his calloused, worn hands and his janitor's uniform. He does not belong here. But then he looks at her hopeful smile. "Yes," he says softly. "I can teach you." From that night onward, Jack arrives on the 20th floor every single evening after his shift ends. He takes no payment. He asks for nothing in return. He teaches Lily how to truly feel the music, how to let the melody guide her fingers, and how to play not with her eyes, but with her heart. She learns quickly, and her playing transforms. The disconnected notes evolve into stories, blossoming into dreams. For the first time in 10 years, Jack feels truly alive again. Yet he has no idea that someone is watching, someone listening from the shadows who will soon change everything. Every night becomes a sacred ritual. Jack finishes his cleaning duties at 11, when most employees have already gone home and the building is quiet, empty, and safe. He takes the elevator to the 20th floor, walks down the long hallway, and opens the door to the music room. And there she is, Lily, always waiting, always smiling. "Uncle Jack," she calls out. Though she cannot see him, she recognizes the familiar cadence of his footsteps. "Hello, little one," Jack replies, sitting beside her at the bench. Tonight they practice scales, then arpeggios, followed by a simple piece by Chopin. Lily stumbles over a difficult passage and frowns. "I just can't get it right," she says. "Don't focus on perfection," Jack tells her gently. "Focus on the feeling. What does this music make you feel?" Lily thinks for a moment. "It feels sad, but also hopeful." "Then play it that way. Let your heart lead, and your fingers will follow." She tries again, and this time the notes emerge softer, more delicate, infinitely more real. Jack smiles. "Better. Much better." Between pieces they talk. Lily asks endless questions about the world. "Uncle Jack, what does a sunset sound like?" Jack laughs softly. "A sunset? Well, it sounds like peace, like everything slowing down. If you listen closely enough, you can almost hear the sky changing colors." "I wish I could see colors," Lily says quietly. "You do, Lily," Jack reassures her. "You just see them differently. You hear them, you feel them. That's a gift, not a limitation." She suddenly leans over and hugs him. Jack is momentarily stunned. He hasn't been embraced by anyone in years. "Thank you for being my friend," she whispers. Jack feels something crack open inside his chest. Something warm. Something he thought he had lost forever. "Always," he says, "but their secret cannot last forever." One night, the building security guard makes his rounds much earlier than usual. Hearing the piano, he flings the door open and stares in shock at Jack, a mere janitor, sitting alone with a child at this hour. "What is going on here?" the guard demands. Jack stands up quickly. I was helping her practice." "Helping her? You're a janitor. You have no business being in this room after hours." "Please," Lily interjects, her voice trembling. "He's my teacher. He didn't do anything wrong." "I'm reporting this," the guard snaps, pulling out his radio. The next morning, Jack is summoned to the manager's office. The manager is a tall man with cold, unyielding eyes named Richard. He despises janitors and has zero tolerance for rule breakers. "You were caught in the music room last night," Richard says, his voice sharp, "with a child long after hours. Do you understand how serious this is?" "I was teaching her piano," Jack explains calmly. "She asked me to. I didn't mean any harm. You are paid to clean, not to play the piano, and certainly not to interact with tenants, especially not children." "But she was alone. She needed help." "That is not your concern." Richard leans forward over his desk. "This is your final warning. If I ever catch you in that room again, you are fired. Do you understand?" Jack clenches his fists tightly. He wants to argue, but he desperately needs this job. He has bills to pay and a daughter to support. "Yes, sir," he says quietly. He turns to leave, but Richard isn't finished yet. "People like you need to know their place," Richard sneers. "You are a janitor, nothing more." Jack offers no response. He simply walks out. That evening, Jack avoids the 20th floor entirely. He finishes his shift and heads straight home. But the following night, as he passes through the building, he hears the piano once more. He stops dead in his tracks outside the door. He knows he should walk away, that he must protect his livelihood. Yet, just then, he hears Lily's voice calling out, "Uncle Jack, are you there?" His heart breaks. He pushes the door open. Lily is sitting at the piano, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought you left me," she says, her voice trembling. "Like my dad." Jack kneels down beside her, taking her small hands. "I will never leave you, Lily. Never. But the man said you couldn't come back." "Let me worry about that. Right now, let's play." They play together one last time, completely unaware that they are no longer alone. Outside the room, Richard stands flanked by two other employees whom he has called as witnesses. "Caught you," Richard says, stepping aggressively into the room. Jack stands up, knowing instantly what is coming. "I told you to stay away," Richard barks. "You're done. Pack pack your things and get out." The other employees whisper among themselves. Some look distinctly uncomfortable, while others smirk, amused by the spectacle. The janitor had actually thought he was special. Then Lily does something completely unexpected. She grabs Jack's hand and holds on with all her might. "Please, don't take him away. He's the only one who sees me." Richard hesitates, but only for a split second. "This is not negotiable. Security will escort you out." Jack looks at Lily one final time. He kneels down close to her ear. "Remember what I taught you," he whispers. "Hear with your heart." He presses something small and folded into her palm. A slip of paper with a phone number. "If you ever need me, call." With that, he stands and walks away. Lily sits all alone at the piano, her small hands resting idly on the keys. For the first time in weeks, she does not play a single note. 3 days pass. Jack does not return to the building. Instead, he takes a grueling job at a grocery store, stocking shelves through the dead of night. The pay is worse and the hours are much longer, but at least there, no one judges him. Yet he thinks of Lily every single day, wondering if she still plays, wondering if she remembers the lessons he left behind. He desperately hopes she does. Meanwhile, up on the 20th floor, things are shifting. Clara Voss sits inside her corner office. As the CEO of the Helios Group at just 33 years old, she is sharp, driven, and ruthless when necessary. She built this enterprise entirely from the ground up, sacrificing everything for success, including precious time with her daughter. Lily spends most of her evenings isolated within the quiet walls of the building. Clara constantly tells herself that this arrangement is only temporary, that once this quarter ends and this massive deal closes, she will finally have time. But the quarters never seem to end, and the deals never stop rolling in. Tonight, Clara finishes a grueling conference call at 9 o'clock. Exhausted, she rubs her temples and glances at the clock, remembering that Lily is downstairs in the music room as always. Deciding to finally check in on her, she takes the private elevator down and walks through the hushed hallway. Suddenly, she hears something unexpected. Piano music. But this isn't just any music. It is Lily playing, and she sounds entirely different. Better, bolder, infinitely more confident. Clara pushes the door open slowly. Lily sits alone at the grand piano, her small fingers gliding across the keys with breathtaking grace and profound feeling. She is playing River Flows in You. Clara has never, in all her life, heard her daughter play like this. She steps back out into the hallway, unwilling to interrupt, simply wanting to absorb the beauty of it. Yet the music abruptly stops. "Mommy," Lily calls out, her head turning. "Is that you?" Clara freezes. How could she possibly know? She steps back inside. "Yes, sweetheart, it is me. I heard your heels," Lily says with a soft smile. "You always wear the tall ones." Clara smiles, touched and guilty all at once. She sometimes forgets just how sharp her daughter's remaining senses truly are. "You played so beautifully," Clara says. "When did you get so good?" Lily's face lights up with radiant joy. "Uncle Jack taught me. He said music isn't about seeing the notes, it's about feeling them." "Uncle Jack." "The janitor. He used to play with me every night until they made him leave." Clara's chest tightens into a knot. "What do you mean, they made him leave?" "Mr. Richards said he wasn't allowed to be here, that he was just a janitor. So they fired him." Clara's expression hardens instantly into stone. "Richard did what?" Before Lily can answer, Clara's phone begins to ring. As an investor, she has to take it. "Stay right here, sweetheart. I'll be back in just a moment." She steps out into the hallway. The call drags on for 20 full minutes. By the time she finally clicks end, the conversation with Lily has slipped entirely from her preoccupied mind. She walks back toward the music room, but stops dead in her tracks as she hears it. 2 pianos playing in harmony. Someone is playing right alongside Lily. Clara's heart races. She moves quietly to the door and peers through the small window glass. A man in a simple janitor's uniform sits at the second grand piano. His back is turned to her, but his hands move across the keys with the undeniable skill of a true professional. Feel the rhythm, he says gently. Don't rush. Let the music breathe. Lily laughs. A bright, chiming sound that Clara hasn't heard in years, overflowing with pure joy. Together, they play River Flows in You, the melody hauntingly, achingly beautiful. Clara stands completely frozen. Tears stream uncontrollably down her face. This stranger, this humble janitor, has given her daughter something she herself could never provide. Genuine, unadulterated happiness. The music comes to an end, and Lily claps her hands together. That was perfect, Uncle Jack. You were perfect. No, Lily, Jack says, smiling softly. I just followed your lead. Drawing a deep, steadying breath, Clara pushes the door open. Both of them turn sharply toward the sound. Jack sees her, and the color drains instantly from his face. Clara Voss, the powerful CEO, is standing right in front of him. He stands up hastily. I'm sorry, Mom. I know I'm not supposed to be here, but Lily called me. She asked me to come and I couldn't say no. Clara doesn't respond immediately. Instead, she studies him closely. His worn, faded uniform, his calloused hands, his remarkably kind eyes. Who are you? She asks coldly. Jack Rowan, ma'am. I used to work here as a janitor. I was fired 3 days ago. For what reason? Jack hesitates. For being in this room with your daughter. Clara turns her gaze sharply toward the doorway, where Richard has just hurried in, evidently alerted by building security. Is this true? She demands. Yes, Miss Voss, Richard stammers, trying to regain his composure. He violated company protocol. He had no authorization to interact with your daughter. Richard falters under her glacial stare. I was merely protecting company policy. Clara's voice drops to an absolute sub-zero chill. You fired the man who was teaching my daughter the piano? The man who made her smile for the first time in years? And you didn't even think to inform me? I didn't know she was your daughter. That makes it infinitely worse. Clara steps closer to him. You judged a man based entirely on his uniform, never bothering to look at his character. Richard stands mute, utterly stripped of a response. Clara turns her attention back to Jack. Why did you come back? You knew full well you could be arrested for trespassing. Jack looks down at Lily, then back up at Clara. Because she needed me, he says simply, and I don't ever abandon the people I care about. The room falls into a profound, heavy silence. Lily walks forward, reaching out to find her mother's hand, and then Jack's. Mommy, she says softly. Uncle Jack taught me how to see your face through music. He told me that every single person has a unique sound, and yours sounds like strength and sadness and love. Clara's tears fall freely now. She looks at Jack, truly looks at him for the first time. You did this? You taught her all of this. I only showed her what was already waiting inside her. Jack replies quietly. She did all the rest. Clara wipes her eyes, making a firm, unshakable decision. Don't leave, she tells him. Not yet. Jack nods slowly. Clara turns squarely toward Richard. Leave us, and report directly to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Richard's face burns a violent crimson, but he turns and walks out without uttering another word. Clara kneels down in front of Lily, cupping her daughter's face gently in her hands. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, she whispers, her voice breaking. I've been so consumed by work that I completely forgot what truly matters most you. Lily throws her arms around her neck. It's okay, Mommy. You're here now. Clara stands up, looking across at Jack. Thank you, she says softly, for seeing her when I couldn't. Jack nods. She is a truly remarkable girl. All because of you. The three of them stand together in the quiet music room. A powerful CEO, a humble janitor, and a blind girl who miraculously brought them all together. The next morning, Clara calls an emergency company-wide meeting. She summons every single employee in the building. Managers, assistants, security personnel, and janitors alike. They gather in the soaring main atrium, hundreds of people standing around, confused and nervous. Clara steps up onto the raised platform. Her sheer presence commands absolute silence. "I want to tell you a story," she begins, her voice echoing clearly through the space. 3 days ago, a man was unjustly fired from this company. His name is Jack Rowan. He worked as a janitor on the night shift. Subdued murmurs ripple through the crowd. People glance at each other, remembering the day he was escorted out. He was fired simply for spending time in this building's music room, teaching a little blind girl how to play the piano. Clara continues, "That little girl is my daughter." A sharp gasp sweeps across the assembled crowd. "Jack didn't know who she was," Clara presses on. "He didn't do it for recognition or money or career advancement. He did it purely because she was alone in the dark, and she desperately needed someone to see her." She pauses, her voice growing stronger, more resonant. "This company has lost sight of something fundamental. We have forgotten that true human value is never determined by a corporate title, that true worth is never measured by a salary, and that sometimes the most profoundly important person in the entire building is not the one sitting in the corner office." She gestures toward the side entrance. "Jack, would you join me up here, please?" Jack walks out onto the platform. He is no longer wearing his janitor's uniform. Clara has arranged for him to wear a proper suit, though he still looks visibly uncomfortable under the glare of hundreds of eyes. The crowd remains completely silent, watching intently. Clara turns toward him. "Jack Rowan sacrificed his job to help my daughter. He risked everything simply because it was the right thing to do. And for that, this company owes him vastly more than a mere apology." She addresses the sea of employees once more. Effective immediately, Jack Rowan is appointed as the new music director for the Helios Foundation. He will lead our brand new initiative providing free music education to children with disabilities. The room erupts. Deafening applause, cheers, and standing ovations sweep across the atrium. Jack stands utterly stunned, looking over at Clara. "I don't understand. You aren't just anything, Jack," Clara says firmly. "You are precisely what this company needs, and what my daughter needs." Off to the side near the back of the crowd, Richard stands stiffly, his face burning bright red. He knows what is coming next. "Richard Miller, step forward." Clara's voice cuts through the room. He hesitates, then drags his feet to the front. Every single eye is pinned directly on him. "You judged a man solely by his uniform," Clara states coldly. "You dismissed him without a shred of investigation. You allowed your own narrow prejudice to override basic human decency. And worst of all, you made my daughter feel that her only true friend was entirely disposable." Richard opens his mouth to defend himself, but Clara raises a single hand, silencing him instantly. "You are being reassigned to the facilities management team. Perhaps there, you will finally learn what it means to be judged by the quality of your work rather than the arrogance of your title." Murmurs of approval ripple through the crowd. Richard's humiliation is total. With his head hung low, he walks off the platform, while the people who once feared or respected him now deliberately look away. Justice has been served. Clara turns back to Jack with a warm, encouraging smile. "Do you accept?" Jack looks out across the vast sea of faces, then down at his own hands. The exact same hands that scrubbed marble floors, mopped long hallways, and played healing music for a little girl who couldn't see. "Yes," he says clearly. "I accept." The crowd cheers even louder this time. Lily is guided onto the platform, feeling her way carefully toward Jack. He steps forward and takes her hand. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out her silver bracelet. "This is for you," she says proudly, "because you taught me what it truly means to live here with your heart." Jack kneels down as Lily slips the bracelet securely onto his wrist. The surrounding crowd falls into a reverent hush. Many quietly wipe away tears. Clara watches the two of them, her beloved daughter and the man who saved her soul, and smiles. It is a real, genuine smile, stripped entirely of the corporate armor she wears every day. For the first time in a decade, she feels unadulterated hope. 1 year later, the Helios Foundation Music Hall is packed to maximum capacity. Parents, teachers, and children fill the venue. On stage, 30 children sit proudly with their instruments, violins, flutes, and cellos. In the absolute center stand 2 grand pianos. Jack stands at the podium, wearing a sleek conductor's suit, yet his eyes carry the exact same gentle warmth as always. Seated beside one of the pianos is Lily. She is 10 years old now, her fingers resting with absolute confidence upon the ivory keys. Around her wrist gleams a new bracelet, inscribed with the words, "Music is light." The overhead lights dim, and the audience hushes into quiet anticipation. Jack raises his baton. The children begin to play. It is an original composition written entirely by Jack, deeply inspired by Lily, titled The Things We Cannot See. The melody is breathtaking, beautiful, bittersweet, and overflowing with hope, longing, and pure joy. Lily takes the lead piano part, her fingers dancing effortlessly across the keys. She doesn't need to see the printed notes. She feels every single one pulsing through her soul. The audience watches in spellbound silence, many openly weeping in the front rows. Sitting right in the middle is Clara, holding her phone to record every single second, though she mostly watches with her own eyes, truly watches. She sees her daughter no longer as a blind girl in need of constant protection, but as the magnificent artist she has truly become. The music swells to a powerful crescendo, before gracefully softening into a gentle, lingering resolution. The final note hangs suspended in the air. For a breathless second, there is absolute silence. Then, thunderous applause erupts. The children stand and take their bows. Lily stands alongside them, turning toward the sound of the audience. Though she cannot see them, she can hear their immense appreciation echoing all around her. Jack steps down from the podium, walks over to her piano, and takes her hand. Together, they bow, and the applause grows even louder. Clara stands up, tears streaming down her face, clapping until her hands sting. After the performance, the crowd mingles happily in the expansive lobby. Jack stands chatting with Lily and Clara. A reporter steps up to them, notepad in hand. "Mr. Rowan, what originally inspired you to create this incredible program?" Jack glances down at Lily, then across at Clara, a gentle smile touching his lips. "I was once a man who entirely lost his way," he says softly. "I genuinely thought my music had died along with my wife. But then I met someone who quietly reminded me that music isn't about what our eyes can see. It's about what we feel, what we share, and what we give to others." The reporter smiles warmly. "And what is your core message to anyone out there who might currently feel lost?" Jack thinks for a brief moment. That sometimes, the most profoundly important moments in life happen when absolutely no one is watching. When there is no reward, no recognition, and no applause, when you simply choose to do what is right, purely because someone needs you. He looks down at the silver bracelet resting on his wrist. "Live here with your heart," he says softly, "and the rest will naturally follow." The camera pans slowly back. The music hall glows with a warm, inviting light. Children laugh, parents embrace, and music fills the air. And right in the center of it all stand 3 people together. A CEO who learned how to truly see, a janitor who learned how to hope once more, and a blind girl who taught them both how to hear.